speakers today. There will also be a Q&A portion at the end of this presentation. And we would appreciate it if you would complete the brief survey that will pop up on your screen once the webinar has ended. Your speakers for today are eAdvisor's Brian Michaels, National Sales Director, and Paige Cromer, National Sales Performance Strategist. And with that, I will pass things off to Paige.
Hello, everyone. For the longest time, everyone has known that a great place to solicit service contract sales is in the service lane. Say that 3 times fast. It's often referred to as the Holy Grail, but few dealers have been very effective at doing it. If only we could come up with a great plan to sell service contracts in the lane. Let's talk about it.
When the number of F&I opportunities falls on the showroom, the focus often reverts to the service lane. Dealers will sometimes station a salesperson in the service lane in the morning to look for opportunities to sell service contracts there. Sometimes dealers will turn to their service advisors and add selling service contracts to their list of responsibilities. Most commonly, they will ask their service advisors to look for opportunities to sell a service contract to a customer who is there for service, and then TO that customer to the F&I. Sometimes they are asked to actually look up and quote service contracts in the lane. Sometimes they're asked to quote and sell the contract in the lane from start to finish. These efforts are rarely successful, and even when they do get some traction, they aren't sustained. It just doesn't seem to fit well out there.
Okay, let's look at why you want to do this. Selling service contracts in the lane has many beneficiaries. Everyone wins. Just think about it. The customer wins because they're protected from unexpected major repair costs, and you're also preventing them from purchasing one of those contracts from an outside party that often cover very little and leave your customer exposed. These contracts also cause satisfaction issues with your customer, even though you didn't sell the contract to them. Every service advisor knows what I mean. Well, Service and Parts wins because that customer will be coming back to see you anytime anything goes wrong with their vehicle, and for regular maintenance to make sure the policy requirements are met. By the way, you can even do things like adding a pack for additional service gross and spiffing the advisors for a TO, giving them some additional personal income. The dealership wins with profit earned from the sale of the contract, the profit from the resulting fixed op sales, and the many benefits of a retained customer.
It's the Holy Grail. Right now, you have customers in your service lane occasionally asking your service advisors about service contracts. Now, these customers are getting peppered with emails, letters, phone calls, and even iced tea is hitting them up on the cable TV. They all look legit. Some are designed to look like they're coming from your OEM. Now, what are they to do, your customers? Your customers trust their service advisors. They're not viewed as salespeople. So they'll ask them about this. Do I need one of these service contracts? That's if they remember. Yes, sometimes a customer will remember to ask, but most times it never comes up. It's kind of like wiper blades. If it's not raining or snowing when they come in for service, the customer's not really thinking about them. Then, a few days later, they find themselves in a rainstorm wishing somebody had reminded them. By the way, that's why it's important for your advisors to review and recommend scheduled maintenance every time. Now, the same can be said for service contracts. It may be on your customer's mind when they see a commercial or get an ad sent to them, but then they forget about it. Their car's fine, it's still like new, but then time goes by, their car has a failure, and now they're in for a rude reminder. Much worse than bad wipers in a rainstorm. But by that time, it's too late.
Okay, now for the elephant in the room. Advisors don't feel comfortable selling service contracts, so don't ask them to. It's not going to happen the way you want it to, if at all. Elephant number 2 in the room, it's a big room. Customers do not like to be solicited by the sales department when they come in for service. Deal with it. It's just true. We need to embrace the facts, so don't do these things. You'll not enhance your customer's experience when you do. It's a turnoff. I've known people who will not service at their dealership because of this. They feel pressured and it's uncomfortable for them. They're there to get their vehicle serviced. Do that and make them happy. By all means, their salesperson should stop and say hello and thank them again. And the customer is interested in another purchase, they'll let them know. This doesn't mean that you should not be marketing to them. Of course you should. We're only talking about what happens while they are in for service. So, Paige, you ask, what are we talking about then? This. We have a plan.
Check this out. When you have Service Lane eAdvisor working for you in your lane, you already have access to our service contract eligibility report. Now, this report will print automatically each time you plug in the Service Lane eAdvisor tool to start the write-up. This report will accurately quote service contract selections based on the VIN and mileage of the vehicle. We pull this information directly from the pricing you already have set up with your OEM service contract provider or even your non-OEM service contract provider. We can even add packs for service contract sales that are generated in service. The report will have pricing for different contract options and all of the vehicle information the F&I business manager will need to quote your customer on the perfect policy for them. Your advisors simply hand this report to the customer at write-up. They don't need to say a word about it. If it is something the customer has been thinking about, the customer will respond, hey, that reminds me, should I be getting one of these warranties? And there you go. Walk the customer up to the front of the store and let the F&I or business manager go to work to sell the customer the policy that makes the most sense for that customer and the dealership. It doesn't get any easier than that. The customer gets a need filled and the dealership earns thousands in additional profit each month. Everybody wins, and it is sustainable.
Can you see how easy that will be? It's what we do here at eAdvisor. We make it easier for service advisors to do their job. We make it easier for them to do their job better. This is just one of the many benefits you get with eAdvisor. We have a full handout on this topic called A Dealer's Guide to F&I's Holy Grail, Selling VSCs on the Service Drive. If you'd like a free copy, let us know in the post survey or email us directly. As always, if you're already an eAdvisor customer, we really appreciate you. Tell all your dealer friends about us. If you have not yet purchased the greatest service lane tool on the planet, eAdvisor, contact us today to schedule your demo. You'll be glad you did.
Thank you, Brian and Paige. That concludes this episode of 10 Minutes to Highly Effective Service. We've had some great questions come in, so we have some time to answer those live. Our first question is it more effective to sell the contracts in service or to them at the F&I department?
I'll take that one. I think what it comes down to is which way is more sustainable. So like winning 1 out of 50 attempts in the lane and then having the focus to slowly diminish and go away over time, or is it better to win 5 out of 1,000 passive attempts? So keep in mind also that your advisors need to stay focused on their main responsibilities. But if you can give them a real passive way to just hand out this report, and if it sparks some interest in the customer, then they can walk them up to the showroom floor. I think that's a much more effective way of doing it myself.
Can you explain what TO means? We have a question about that.
Yeah, acronyms in the car business, right? Yeah, TO means turnover. It's used in the front of the store a lot, but turnover, it basically means bring them up to the showroom and turn the customer over to the F&I manager, in an instance like this.
Is it common for dealers to spiff their advisors for service contract sales?
Oh, I'll take that one. Very much so. They would love to do it. And as we discussed in earlier, there's an enormous benefit for everyone when contracts are sold. So advisors can they can increase their personal income just by simply making that connection. And then, of course, the dealership after that benefits as well.
Thank you. I have a couple of advisors that are really good at selling. Would you recommend they are more assertive than just handing the quote to the customer?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I have to say it depends. Again, I'm just going to be, brutally honest here. If they're the kind of salesperson as a service advisor that's persuasive, if they're persuasive salespeople with great customer rapport and relationships, then sure. Yeah. But if they're not, if they're the type that kind of use a hint of threat, you got to do this or your warranty's going to get, voided and stuff like that. If they do it that way, then I think that you're running the risk of making the customer uncomfortable with that. And as we know, customers will avoid being uncomfortable and they may stop responding, or coming into your service altogether. It's my opinion. Thanks. Good question.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you to everyone for your time today and those of you that submitted your questions. If we didn't have a chance to answer yours or you came up with a question just at the very end, please reach out to us individually and we will answer those for you. We'll also be sending out a copy of this recording later this week. As a reminder, a survey will pop up once this webinar ends, and we would greatly appreciate your responses. And don't forget to mark your calendars for Thursday, October 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern for episode 11. More details and a pre-registration link are included in an email immediately following this webinar. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.